deadly explosions rock the Brussels International Airport and a major subway station. And fighting the Zika virus by taking on the mosquito. Africa 54 starts right now.
Good evening, I'm Linor Moudou. This is Africa 54. Vincent Makori is off today. Belgium is a nation on edge Tuesday after at least 3 explosions rocked Brussels Tuesday morning, 2 at the international airport and 1 at the Malbec metro station in downtown Brussels, where many European Union institutions are located. Local officials say at least 30 people are dead and many others are wounded. VOA's Jeff Custer has more.
Twin explosions rocked the Zaventem airport at about 8 a.m. local time, leaving debris scattered on the airport floor, filling the terminal with smoke and causing numerous casualties. Moments after the airport blasts, one explosion struck the Malbec metro station in downtown Brussels, where many European Union institutions are based. Speaking alongside Belgian Prime Minister Charles Michel, prosecutor Frederick Van Loo said at least one blast was probably caused by a suicide bomber.
Ce matin, à Zaventem ont eu lieu 2 explosions dans le hall des
the departure hall of Zaventem. One was probably caused by a kamikaze, and shortly after, about half an hour later, an explosion at Malbec. It took a bit of time to secure the area because of the amount of luggage, and we need to ensure there weren't any other bombs or dangerous objects in the baggage. So at the moment, it's too early to give a precise number of victims.
Belgian authorities put the country on the highest level alert. Prime Minister Michel called for people to come together.
Now more than ever, I would like to appeal to all to be calm and show solidarity. We are confronted with a challenge, a difficult challenge, and we must face it by standing united, showing solidarity, and staying together.
Brussels Airport has canceled all flights, and the metro, museums, and train stations have been closed. Authorities have called on commuters to stay home from work and those already at their offices to remain there. The explosions come just days after the arrest in Brussels of key Paris attack suspect Salah Abdeslam. Jeff Custer, VOA News, Washington.
And U.S. President Barack Obama spoke about the deadly terror attacks prior to giving a speech in Cuba.
The thoughts and the prayers of the American people are with the people of Belgium, and we stand in solidarity with them in condemning these outrageous attacks against innocent people. We will do whatever is necessary to support our friend and ally Belgium in bringing to justice those who are responsible. And this is yet another reminder that the world must unite. We must be together, regardless of nationality or race or faith, in fighting against the scourge of terrorism. We can and we will defeat those who threaten the safety and security of people all around the world.
All flights in and out of the airport have been cancelled, and all of Brussels' subway and main rail stations have been shut down. Tuesday's explosions occurred days after Belgian police arrested Salah Abdeslam, the prime suspect in last November's terrorist attacks in Paris that left 130 people dead and more than 300 wounded. And a short time ago, EU leaders issued a joint statement saying the attacks have strengthened their resolve to defend European values. For the very latest on the attacks, let's go to reporter Dave Keating, who joins us live via Skype from Brussels. Dave, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So we hear ISIS has claimed the attack. What can you tell us in terms of the latest?
Well, we still don't know the names of the specific individuals who carried out the attack. We have this claim by ISIS. I don't think we have any reason to think that it's not credible. An image of who the police say are possibly the bombers from the airport has been released. There's 3 men in the photo. It's unclear if all 3 were related to the bombing or only 2 of them. There's some reports that the 2 people on the left of the photo were suicide bombers, and the 3rd one may have escaped. But still, that's not entirely clear. In terms of the metro attack, we still don't have any names or images of the attackers.
And now, what are the authorities saying in terms of how investigations are progressing?
They still don't know, again, the details. Both areas are crime scenes, so no one's been allowed to go into that airport departure area to get their bags or anything else. Same thing with the Malbec metro station. There's a police cordon off it. It's just down the street, and you can't go anywhere near it. The street is very much blocked off. But the major lead that we've just gotten in the past hour, 2 hours or so ago was the image from the airports. I think that's the only major advance in the investigation that we have.
Now, the airport seems to be a target that perhaps is open, given how many people go in and out the airport. The Malbec station, however, is underneath the European Union. It's not such a big station. Is there some symbolism to this station?
Yeah, it's not such a big station, but it is under a very important area. It's a very busy station because it's the main station used for the European Parliament. It's also right near the European Commission, the European Council, basically all the big European institutions, which means that people working for those institutions use that station for their commutes, but also people like lobbyists, journalists. The EU Press Center is just a block away from this metro station. So it seems unlikely that this metro station was targeted by accident. It does seem like the EU institutions were specifically targeted here.
Dave, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And that was Dave Keating reporting live via Skype from Brussels. And as we've mentioned, U.S. President Barack Obama is in Cuba today, where he has a busy schedule. To tell us more about the President's Day, joining us live from Havana, Cuba, is VOA's Natasha Mosgovaya. Natasha, welcome to the show.
Hola from Havana. President Obama said to mention today in his speech a lot of Spanish phrases, so we need, I guess, to catch up.
Yes, indeed, the president was on target with his Spanish. Tell us, what were some of the important issues that he spoke about during his address? He talked about the embargo. Tell us more.
He told about the embargo. Basically, he called on the Congress to lift the embargo as soon as possible because the reason demands it and the interests of both countries, very close neighbors, demanded. He also spoke about the cooperation between two countries, the development of business, the investments that might come, the cultural relations. And it's really hard to imagine more significant, more symbolically significant event after over half a century of animosity than the U.S. president coming here, speaking directly to the Cuban people and speaking basically in their language, speaking with a lot of respect to their culture, saying that I am aware of history, acknowledge that, but I don't want to be a captive of this history. So basically he looked forward, he offered the Cuban people this way forward together. And it's significant not only for the relationship between Cubans and Americans, not only for his personal legacy as a president, but also Cuba is seen as a key to Latin America. Yesterday, President's advisor Ben Rhodes said that Cuban policy is Latin American policy. Basically, it's a step towards the whole Latin America. And as such, basically, from what we see in coverage in the countries of the continent, it is also received.
So, Natasha, what are people saying in terms of what they expect from this trip, what the ramification will be for U.S.-Cuba relations?
Well, I saw two different types of reactions. One, more official reactions of the, say, local newspapers, of the local officials, who are respectful but a little bit reluctant because, for example, let's take yesterday's common conference with the President Raul Castro. He seemed pretty uncomfortable, for example, about the question about the political prisoners. He said there are basically no such thing in Cuba. And also, he didn't rush to embrace Barack Obama. Basically, he held his hand. So the officials are reluctant, and the Cubans, I think, are very excited that now there will be investment, there will be improved economic relationship, maybe better food, better internet, etc.
We'll keep an eye on it, indeed. Thank you so much, Natasha. And that was VOA's Natasha Mosgovaya reporting live from Havana, Cuba. Now, President Obama's Monday in Cuba was full of ceremony and symbolism. VOA's Alberto Pimienta has this recap of the activities.
President Barack Obama, the guest of honor at the Palace of the Revolution in Havana. At a state dinner, 88 years in the making. After meeting earlier Monday, Presidents Obama and Raul Castro jointly talked to the press, something Castro doesn't do often. While the visit may mark a new phase, the deep divisions between both countries were evident.
I've said consistently, after more than 5 very difficult decades, the relationship between our governments will not be transformed overnight. We continue, as President Castro indicated, to have some very serious differences, including on democracy and human rights.
Castro once more asked for Guantanamo to be returned to Cuba and for the U.S. embargo to be ended, request not likely to happen with a Republican-controlled Congress.
Much more could be done if the U.S. blockade was lifted. We recognize the position of President Obama and his administration against the blockade and his repeated appeals to Congress to have it removed. The recent measures taken by his government are positive, but are not sufficient.
President Obama says he spoke to Castro about the human rights conditions on the island.
I made it clear that the United States will continue to speak up on behalf of democracy, including the right of the Cuban people to decide their own future. We'll speak out on behalf of universal human rights, including freedom of speech and assembly and religion. Indeed, I look forward to meeting with and hearing from Cuban civil society leaders tomorrow.
According to dissidents on the island, the tensions have increased in the last year. A U.S. journalist asked Castro about political prisoners in Cuba.
Give me a list of the political prisoners, and I will release them immediately. Just mention a list. What political prisoners? Give me a name or the names. Or when the news conference ends, you can give me a list of the prisoners. If we have those political prisoners, before nightfall, they will be released.
In his first full day in Havana, Obama also spoke to Cuban entrepreneurs in a local Havana brewery.
Very nice to see you, sir. Thank you so much.
On Tuesday, one of the most contentious parts of the visit will take place when Obama meets with Cuban dissidents. Alberto Pimienta for VOA News, Washington.
Now, 4 gunmen launched an attack on a hotel being used as the headquarters for the European Union military forces in the Malian capital, Bamako. Guards at the luxury hotel killed one of the attackers during a firefight. The EU mission later released a statement on Twitter saying no personnel were wounded during the violence and that forces are securing the area. There was no immediate claim of responsibility for the assault, which comes about 4 months after militants from Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, Akim, attacked the Radisson Blu Hotel in Mali's capital, killing 20 people. The same group also targeted a beach resort town in Ivory Coast earlier this month, killing 19 people. The International Criminal Court has found former Congolese Vice President Jean-Pierre Bemba guilty on 5 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity. A 3-judge panel in The Hague ruled unanimously that Bemba was criminally responsible for acts of murder, rape, and pillage carried out by his militia in the Central African Republic in 2002 and 2003. Bemba's movement for the liberation of Congo was helping forces of then CAR President Ange-Félix Patassé fight a rebel movement. Judge Sylvia Steiner of Brazil, who read the verdict Monday, said evidence clearly showed Bemba's fighters deliberately targeted civilians across the CAR and that victims included women, children, and the elderly. Bemba was previously one of 4 vice presidents in the Democratic Republic of Congo government from July 2003 to December 2006. He fled the DRC in March 2007. He was arrested in Belgium in May 2008 and transferred to ICC custody that July. U.S. envoy to the United Nations, Samantha Power, called the verdict, quote, a significant victory for international justice and a major development in the fight against impunity for crimes of sexual violence. We want to know what you think about Africa 54 and the stories we cover. Join the conversation on Facebook. The address is Africa 54, and check out our headlines 24/7 on voaafrica.com. Find me on Twitter at Lenore Moudou. Coming up, a more disturbing news concerning the Zika virus. Stay with us.
Green Beat for a healthier planet.
The fishing industry in Mauritania accounts for up to 10% of its gross domestic product. But local fisherman Baro Diop worries his livelihood is in danger.
There are big boats that stop here coming from the sea, big trawlers that destroy the seagrass. And the seagrass these trawlers destroy is where the fish live.
A new global initiative, though, aims to push for more sustainable fishing practices and keep track of the world's fish stocks. Jacqueline Alder is with the Food and Agriculture Organization.
The Fishing Transparency Initiative will help to improve governance by looking at who has the right to fish, how much it costs to fish, and how much they catch.
According to the Fishing Transparency Initiative, overfishing is threatening much of the world's fish stocks. Once governments sign on to the voluntary initiative, as Mauritania has done, they must adhere to guidelines for gathering and disclosing information about their fishing industries. I'm Rebecca Ward for VOA's Green Beat.
March 22nd is World Water Day. Clean drinking water is essential for preventing diseases and enjoying good health. But according to the World Health Organization, some 663 million people, 1 out of every 10 people in the world, do not have access to safe water. As Faiza El-Masri reports, researchers have developed a method that could filter contaminants from water faster and more cheaply than current methods. Faith Lapidus narrates.
Developing the perfect water filter is Bao Shoumi's goal. Growing up in China, she learned the value of clean drinking water early on. Now at the University of California, Berkeley, the environmental engineer is developing a new type of membrane that could be more efficient than today's water filtration technology and consume less energy in the process. It's made up of layers of graphene, 100,000 times thinner than a strand of human hair.
We made it from graphite, which is a material that we use in pencils, for example. So it's cheap and relatively abundant. So we can use that, and the process that we use to make from the graphite to the graphene oxide is actually quite scalable.
That means the membranes could be adapted to filter water from a faucet, as well as for large systems used to treat wastewater. The membranes are much like a maze for water molecules. The water passes through a series of layers separated by spaces specifically designed to remove different types of contaminants.
In order to kind of get remove different targeted molecules, the most direct way of thinking about it is to control the spacing that we have between the layers.
The researchers are working on further improvements. They hope their work will contribute to finding solutions to water purification worldwide to make clean water affordable and available for people everywhere. For writer Faiza El-Masri, I'm Faith Lapidus, VOA News.
Now, a yellow fever outbreak in Angola has killed 158 people, up from 50 a month ago. The World Health Organization is calling for a large-scale vaccination campaign to stop the spread of the disease that began late last year. Angolan health officials say there has also been an increase in malaria, cholera, and chronic diarrhea in Luanda and other cities, partly due to a breakdown in sanitation services and trash collection. Scientists are in a race against time. The World Health Organization estimates that as many as 4 million people could be infected with the Zika virus by the end of the year. As VOA's Carol Pearson reports, the only way to stop the virus is to kill or change the mosquito that carries the virus.
There's no vaccine against the Zika virus, so controlling it comes down to controlling the mosquito that carries the virus. Countries in Latin America are spraying insecticides to kill the mosquito, but more needs to be done.
Outdoor spraying has limited effectiveness in that these mosquitoes breed in a wide variety of container types that typically aren't going to be exposed when widespread spraying occurs.
The mosquito that carries the Zika virus can lay eggs in old tires, water cisterns, bottle caps, or any place where there's a drop or two of water.
Insecticides can also be used to target the larval stages where the mosquitoes are living in their aquatic habitats.
Researchers are also trying to genetically change the mosquito.
We try to manipulate mosquitoes in such a way to make them resistant actually to these viruses. This way a transmission cycle can be interrupted.
Still another method uses a bacteria to either sterilize the males or to prevent the mosquitoes from carrying the virus. Researchers at the British company Oxitec have modified the mosquito so that its offspring die before they can reproduce. An Oxitec scientist told VOA that trials in the Cayman Islands and Brazil have reduced wild mosquito larvae by more than 80%. Once this particular mosquito population falls to a level where it's no longer a threat, careful monitoring would determine if additional modified mosquitoes would need to be released or if insecticides could do the job. With a plant in Brazil and a larger one in the works, Oxitec is perhaps the company closest to having a ready solution.
The most effective approach to suppressing the populations is going to be to take an integrated strategy that combines things like these genetically modified mosquitoes as well as traditional use of insecticides and elimination of breeding habitat.
Much of this work is still in the research stage. In the meantime, millions of pregnant women are depending on researchers to come up with something quickly and spare their babies from the risk of lifelong disabilities linked to the Zika virus. Carol Pearson, VOA News, Washington.
After a short break, we'll tell you what's trending, so do stay with us. Welcome back to Africa 54. Here is what's trending. Apple has announced a series of upgrades to its hardware products, including Apple TV and Apple Watch, and software services such as iOS. The new phone, named iPhone SE, has a 4-inch screen, the same size as the iPhone 5 series, initially released in 2012, and smaller than the iPhone 6 series, rolled out about a year ago. The starting price is $399. The new iPad Pro is a 9.7-inch device, down from the 12.9-inch product introduced at the autumn launch last year. Apple has positioned the iPad Pro as a replacement for laptop computers. The new iPad will retail for $599. Orders of both the iPhone SE and iPad Pro will begin on March 24th. They will be available from March 31st. A lot to keep up there. Next up, happy birthday, Twitter. The social media giant turned 10 on Monday. The 140-character messaging service launched in March 21st, 2006. It all began with a simple simple tweet from Twitter founder Jack Dorsey, who posted, "Just setting up my Twitter." Since then, well, Twitter has become a global communication tool with 320 million users. How about that? Twitter started using the hashtag feature in 2009. The hashtag made Twitter a more powerful platform for activists and a popular tool for breaking news. The use of the pound symbol to organize tweets came from a user, and so did the idea for retweets, but its business model is still lagging, however. Twitter's expansion has slowed dramatically over the past year and a half. At the end of 2015, it was lagging behind social network leader Facebook and its 1.5 million users. And finally, it may be a dog's life, but this put is getting a prime view of Milan's busy highway. It's thanks to an Italian invention that allows motorists to bring their four-legged friends on the road with them. The carrier eliminates distraction for drivers, and its makers say allows both pet and owner to travel safely and free of stress. Many countries restrict the carriage of pets on bikes, but the final product is designed to comply with international highway codes. Production is due to begin in April and will retail at around €200. And that's what's trending today. Now, in Lagos, Nigeria, an innovating floating school can house up to 100 students and teachers and is able to withstand tidal changes and extreme weather patterns. VOA's Caroline Turner has more.
Nicknamed the Venice of Lagos, Nigeria's Makoko slum is home to nearly 100,000 people. Residents are mostly fishermen living on stilts in the lagoon and moving between their houses by canoe. Last November, a new school opened in the slum and enrolled 47 students. It's called the Makoko Floating School. The movable building is shaped like a pyramid and has an eco-friendly construction. It was built with recycled empty plastic barrels, locally sourced bamboo, and wood procured from a sawmill. The school's triangular frame can adapt to changing tides and water levels, making it better suited to survive floods and storms. Shemedi Noah is the floating school's director.
During October to November, the water level in the community do rise very well, and it do affect the existing structure. I mean the old school, because the old school was built on a reclaimed land. And but this was built on the floating barrels, which whenever the water level rise, it rise, and whenever the water level goes down, it goes down.
Local government officials took notice and now plan to incorporate the floating school's design in other districts. Pupils give the floating classrooms 2 thumbs up too.
I have never seen any school floating on water before. This is the only one that I've seen. That is why I forced my parents to take me to this school. I like this school.
I like it because it's facing by the house, only on water, and cutting the environment to learning and clapping and jumping and singing.
The slum was designated for demolition in 2013, which would have left many homeless. Luckily, the floating school has brought global attention to the plight of the Makoko and the precious gift of education to these children. Carolyn Turner, VOA News.
Thanks for watching. Good night.
Welcome to Voice of America's News Words, where we teach you about words in the news.
When you hear the word encouraging in a news story, what does it mean? In this monthly jobs report, was the news good or bad?
Encouraging.
175,000 jobs created is an encouraging sign of improvement in our labor market.
Encouraging means to give hope that something good will happen. In this case, more jobs will lead to a better economy.
And if people encourage you to do something, it means they support you and want you to succeed. Now, when you hear the word encouraging, your English will be good enough to know what this news word means.